Three-body problem is a famously impossible to solve problem in the world of physics. It is also the name of a 2024 Netflix show written by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. I know they are the same David Benioff and D.B. Weiss who wrote and failed to solve another impossible problem in the world of show business: how to deliver a satisfying ending to a show based on an unfinished work of literature by the name of Game of Thrones. Now, I will totally understand if you do not want to watch the first season of Three Body Problem knowing how beautifully Game of Thrones concluded. But Benioff Weiss phobia aside, Three Body Problem is an engaging, binge worthy science fiction thriller that captures admirable and divergent themes like communism, mortality, authoritarianism, secret cults, mental health challenges, unrequited love, cancer, covert operatives, academic science versus applied science, video game addiction, and of course, the central theme of the show: war with aliens. In more ways than one, aliens and virtual reality video games are to Three Body Problem what dragons and White Walkers were to Game of Thrones. Magic from Game of Thrones has been replaced by state of the art science and technology, shown vividly through a virtual reality video game, and the world must unite against an extraterrestrial existential threat. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Now, as you might imagine, this is far from being the first show or the first movie about fighting an alien invasion. The difference here is that in this show, physics, not politics or brute military strength, is used as humanity's best defense. There is an interesting dialogue in the show where one disillusioned physicist from Earth despairingly declares that the last time the best physicists on Earth were given insane resources, they produced Hiroshima, which did make me feel bad about Nagasaki. Somehow I feel whenever we talk about the atom bomb, we tend to talk more about Hiroshima than we do about Nagasaki. So, is it worth the risk of watching the first season of Three Body Problem, knowing fully well that yet another promising multi season saga can have a very disappointing conclusion like Game of Thrones? I'll leave the choice up to you. The central conflict in Three Body Problem is a looming fight with aliens that is set to happen in the future but is also happening in the present. In many ways, it's a nice allegory for the problem that human beings are now facing while combating climate change. Alien invasion is a much more interesting threat to prepare against for human beings than the irreversible rise in global temperature, if I may dare to say so. Sure enough, like every other modern day challenge that humanity faces collectively, there are some human beings who have chosen to worship the aliens. The founder of the alien worshipping cult is perhaps the most interesting character in the show Three Body Problem. But in true Benioff Weiss fashion, this character gets killed off prematurely and unceremoniously. Three Body Problem has an eerie similarity to Game of Thrones in this respect. No character is safe from dying on screen in Three Body Problem, just like no character was apparently safe from dying on screen in Game of Thrones. The fact that many actors have worked in both shows only makes the similarities between Game of Thrones and Three Body Problem that much more noticeable. I did not like Three Body Problem that much, I must admit it here. Perhaps because I am still jaded from the whiplash inducing end to Game of Thrones, and I haven't forgiven Benioff and Weiss for that. I certainly did not understand all the details of physics mentioned in Three Body Problem, but I am pretty sure I was not supposed to understand everything. Any good show, any good movie has the creative responsibility to be accessible to its viewers, and creators generally try to use language or other visual tools to ensure that their work is understood by the viewer. If the viewer fails to understand the plot, then the fault lies with the creator for not explaining it well enough. And to paraphrase Albert Einstein, if you cannot explain something simply enough, perhaps you did not understand it well enough in the first place.